Let's check out the AP Stats news for week 4. Now, before I talk about the tasks for this week, I want to talk about the quarter because I'm going to make an adjustment on how your testing timelines are going to work. And I think you're going to like it. So if you take a look at first quarter, what we have here is we're almost done with September, and then our month of October, we're going to be covering chapters 2 and 3, and the end of the quarter is the first week in November here, so it ends on November 3rd. Now, if we look at the testing timeline, for testing, remember I was going to give you a 1-week window in which to take that test, and then after that would be a 0. If we look at the test for Chapter 1, we know clearly that that's coming up this week, and here's our Chapter 1 test. The Chapter 2 test is scheduled for October 9th and 10th, and then the Chapter 3 test is scheduled for October 26th and 27th. So here's what I'm going to do in terms of giving you a final first quarter grade. I am going to cut off the grade book as of the end of Chapter 3, even though we still have one more week left in the quarter. You must complete your material up to Chapter 3 and get all of your tests completed by the end of the quarter, which is November 3rd. Now, I don't care at which pace you do that. If you want to look at our Chapter 1 test for this week, if you wanted to wait to take the Chapter 1 test until the middle of October and then plow through Chapters 2 and 3, keep in mind you have to have it done, again, by the end of the quarter, which is November 3rd. I do not recommend doing that. That's not a smart way to go through the class. I highly recommend going through the suggested on-pace material as I have posted on the Schoology calendar. So basically, instead of having you pace by chapter, I'm going to let you self-pace by quarter. Keeping in mind, you must get through the Chapter 3 material. At the end of the quarter, anything not done up to Chapter 3 is a 0. So your required pace is you have to get to this by the end of the quarter. Now with this adjustment, it means you all can take your chapter tests at any point in time on this calendar. In order to help me stay organized, so when you come to class, if I'm busy teaching a different course, I'm going to create some type of form where you can give me at least a 1-day heads up of the hour and the day that you're planning on coming in so I can be prepared and ready for you. The other thing to talk about are the 3-week progress reports that come out. Administration wants us to have the gradebook updated every 3 weeks. So what I am going to do, if you decide to be more behind pace in this course and not based on the suggested pace, when the 3-week progress report comes out, and I think the next one is going to be around Friday the 13th, any work you do not have done based on these scheduled due dates, I am going to go in and zero them out on Skyward. So your grade will definitely drop. Now, for me, that's okay. If this is our next 3-week progress report and you have this whole week yet to do, I need to zero these out so it shows you're behind pace. As long as you have all of your material done for up to Chapter 3 by this date of November 3rd, then the grade will renew itself and be more appropriate and accurate with the work that you've done at that time. The last thing to talk about here are the retakes. In terms of the retakes, as long as we have 1 week before the end of the quarter, it is retakeable. So in terms of this, the Chapter 1, both of these would be retakeable if needed. Chapter 2 would be retakeable. Now be careful. This is the suggested pace for Chapter 3. If you take it by this date, you are in the retake window because there's 1 week left for the quarter. If you delay this Chapter 3 test and take it any point in time in this week, it is not retakeable because you need at least 1 week before the end of the quarter to prepare for the retakes. Now let's talk specifically about this week. So now we know for testing, the scheduled due date for the Chapter 1 test is Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you're ready for that, great. Come on in on your scheduled time and take it. Now remember the adjustment I just made. You have until the end of the quarter to take this, but you need to take it before you start your Chapter 2 material. So do not get too far behind on taking these Chapter 1 tests. I highly recommend you stick to at least that 1 week window that I originally had set. Now, if either of these 2 tests don't go well for you when they are graded, you do have the chance to do the retakes, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The week then wraps up, and we're going to actually start Chapter 2 with 2 sections of material on Thursday and Friday. Now, the multiple choice and free response tests are retakeable if you're not content with your scores. The guidelines for a retake are listed right here. Before you do move forward to retake, all formative assignments must be complete. So if you ever did get a 0 on homework, you must go back and complete that to get an adequate score. You'll then want to set up a meeting with me and we will just go over the learning objectives you missed on your test, and I'll assign you some relearning problems to try so you can do better on the new retake. I also have some multiple choice and free response extra practice if you would like, and you can find them within this folder. These links right here is a multiple choice practice and some free response. These are not required, but you might find them helpful. All of the relearning that you're scheduled to do and the retake itself must be done within 2 weeks of when the test was first administered. And remember, you get the new score on your second test, even if you do worse. Now, when it's time to take your test, you're going to want to figure out which hour I have you scheduled to take it. If you go into the Schoology homepage, look for the student-designated testing dates and hours and locations. If you click on that and scroll down, you're going to find the table for testing. Find your appropriate name and see which hour I have you set for. Now, what you're going to do is going to use the Flex Scheduler to flex out of your student prep or if you're a student aide that hour. There are going to be 2 locations for testing. You're either going to have the offering choice of online testing with Mrs. Landon, and basically I'm every hour except first hour. Or if you are scheduled for first hour, you would go to Mr. Munster-Tiger's room for first hour only. Now, there are some limitations about Mr. Munster-Tiger's room. For those of you set for first hour, Mr. Munster-Tiger is only going to be available for testing on the actual scheduled due date as you see in Schoology. So that would mean, for this case, it's going to be first hour is only going to be Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. If you want to test any other days other than Tuesday and Wednesday during first hour, that's fine, but then you have to see me directly and we'll have to schedule a time for you to do that. The reason for it, folks, my first hour is completely full with FST and I cannot create a secure testing environment for you. But see me if you're not going to test Tuesday or Wednesday and we'll set something up. All the other hours you're going to see are available, and all you're going to do is you're going to flex out into my room and I'll get you set up for testing. You do not need to bring the formula sheet with you because I will have a laminated formula sheet that you can use on your test in addition to the paper-based test I give you. Bring your graphing calculator. You're definitely going to want that. Now, the one thing about the multiple choice test, which is the first one you take, you are going to have 5 choices, but I like to give you partial credit. So I give you 2 options in terms of giving an answer. So what you would do on this one is, let's say you think the true answer is letter B. So you'd circle B and you'd put a 1 or first next to it. If you think E is your second answer, you would just put a second next to that. Now, if B was the right answer, you're going to get 1 complete point. But if E was the correct answer, you will get a half a point, and that's how you get partial credit. As I mentioned earlier, I do want you to fill out a testing form to help me stay organized so I know when to expect you to come and take your test. So on our home page, you can reference the testing date reservation form. If you click on that, it's just 4 quick questions. And try to do this a day in advance, and that'll help me get things organized. I just look for your name, do a drop down here and tell me which test you're taking. Is it what chapter, and is it multiple choice or free response? The day you plan to take it, and then select the hour. Again, if it's first hour, you can only do that with Mr. Munster-Tiger on the scheduled dates as in the calendar. Other than that, you have to plan the other dates. There is a testing after school location available. It'll be on Wednesdays. So if you want to test after school, you can scroll down on here and select the Wednesday after school, and I will make sure that it is all ready for you to go then. And as a helpful reminder, clearly you get to pick your testing dates now, but do not get too far behind. You have to get through 3 chapters by the end of the quarter. And then when your testing is all done, you're going to be able to start Chapter 2 this week. So let's take a quick peek at what you can expect. So Chapter 2 is going to be about modeling distributions of data. What it's called is the normal distribution. This is probably a topic you haven't seen before, so it's new data, but it's interesting. It's actually somewhat of a number crunching type of section that hopefully you'll enjoy because it's different. Like Chapter 1, Chapter 2 also has a question board. Please feel free to use this discussion thread at any time during Chapter 2 with your questions. I will try to get back to them within a day's response, and other students feel free to read them, and if you have responses, you can respond within the thread too. You do want to start the chapter by doing the read and watch the Chapter 2 opener. Just look at the case study to give you a better understanding of what the chapter may be like. And then you are ready to jump into day 1 and do your note-taking, your practice work, and submitting your homework online.